Folklore from Indonesia. Listen and focus. The story of Jaka and the Seven Angels. Central Java, Indonesia. In ancient times there lived a young man named Jaka in a village in central Java. He lives with his mother, who is usually called Mila. His father had long since passed away. Every day Jaka and Mila farm rice in the fields. One night, in the middle of his deep sleep, Jaka dreamed of marrying a beautiful angel from heaven. As soon as he woke up and realized that it was all just a dream, Jaka smiled to himself. Even so, the dream just now was still vivid in his memory. Jaka couldn't sleep anymore. He came out and sat on the porch in front of his house, staring at the stars in the sky. Not feeling the rooster crows a sign that it is morning. Mila, who had just woken up, realized that Jaka was not at home. As soon as she looked out the window, she saw her only child daydreaming. She guessed that maybe Jaka was thinking about getting married soon. He is more than old enough. His friends of his age are also married. That thought made Mila intend to help Jaka find a wife. At noon, when Mila was in the rice field, suddenly the owner of the rice field next door, approached her. Mila, why is your child not married yet? Asked to open the conversation. I don't know, said Mila, remembering the incident this morning. What's wrong with you asking that, Mr. Rano? Asked Mila. She was a little surprised why Rano was interested in her son's personal life. It's okay, Mila. I intend to match your son with my son Laraswati, replied Mr. Ranu. Mila was surprised to hear Ranu's intentions that had just been expressed. She was very happy. Laraswati is a beautiful girl whose speech is gentle. She is sure that Jaka wants to make Laraswati his wife. Even so, Mila did not want to precede her son in making a decision. However, she realized that Jaka was an adult and had his own desires. I agree, Mr. Ranu. But we should first ask our respective children, said Mila wisely. Mr. Ranu nodded. He thought what Mila said was true. Day after day, Mila has yet to find the right time to talk about Jaka and Laraswati's matchmaking plans. She was afraid that Jaka would be offended. It is also possible that Jaka already has a future wife who has not been introduced to her. Over time, Mila forgot her original intention. Jaka is a young man who really likes hunting. He is also a reliable hunter. His expertise was obtained from his late father. Jaka was often invited to hunt by his father when he was young. That morning Jaka was ready to hunt in the forest. Bows, arrows, Knives and swords have been prepared. He also said goodbye to his mother. Mila looked normal, just letting go of Jakatarub. She hoped her son would bring home a large deer that they could eat in the next few days. Not long after, Mila came into her room. She intended to rest for a while before leaving for the fields. It's known, Mila is old. It didn't take long in the middle of the forest. Jakatarub managed to shoot a deer. His heart is happy. Immediately he shouldered the deer and intended to go home soon. Bad luck seems to come over. In the middle of walking, suddenly a leopard appeared in front of Jakatarub. The tiger took a stance to attack. Jakatarub panicked. He immediately let go of the deer he was carrying and drew the sword from his waist. The tiger moves very fast. He immediately bit the deer and took him away. Jakatarub sat limp. Not only was he shocked by what had just happened, he was astonished. Only this time his luck was this unlucky. Hunted animals are already in the hands, even preyed upon wild animals. What is this sign? He thought. Jakatarub immediately dismissed the bad thoughts that crossed his mind. After resting for a while, he immediately walked again. Bad luck did not want to leave Jakatarub. After walking and waiting a few times, not even a game passed by. The sun is rising. Jakatarub is feeling hungry. He didn't bring anything with him because he was sure he wouldn't be in the forest all this time. Finally, Jakatarub decided to go home, even though empty-handed. When Jakatarub started to enter his village, he was surprised to see many people walking hurriedly in the same direction. There were even a few people who passed him that looked surprised. Even though he was surprised, Jakatarub was reluctant to ask. The hunger that plagued him made Jakatarub want to get home quickly. Jakatarub was stunned looking at his house, which was already visible from a distance. Many people gathered in front of his house. Even the people he had seen walking hurriedly were heading towards his house too. What's wrong? He thought. Jakatarub started to feel uncomfortable. He immediately ran to his house. What's going on? Asked Jakatarub, half shouting. Everyone was shocked and turned towards him. Pak Ranu, who had been waiting for Jakatarub's arrival, immediately approached and patted Jakatarub on the shoulder. Patient son, he said while guiding Jakatarub into the house. Jakatarub's eyes were immediately fixed on a figure lying stiffly on a couch in the living room. A few seconds later, Jakatarub realized that his mother had died. Jakatarub could not hold back the tears. This is proof of the bad feeling I've had since morning, he thought. Jakatarub couldn't do anything. He just pensively looked at Mila's face. Pak Ranu's story that his wife, who found Mila, had died in her sleep this morning, ignored him. He contemplated his fate, which is now alone. Jakatarub also regretted not fulfilling his mother's wish. seeing him have a household and have grandchildren. But all that remains are memories. Now her mother is resting in peace. After the death of his mother, Jakatarub filled his days with hunting. Almost every day he hunts in the forest. He always shares the results of his hunt to share with neighbors. Only by hunting, Jakatarub can forget his sadness. Like that morning, Jakatarub was getting ready to go hunting. He casually walked towards the Wanawasa forest because it was still early. When he arrived at the forest, Jakatarub was just waiting for game animals to pass in front of him. It doesn't feel like it's already noon. None of the game animals that Jakatarub got. He actually daydreams more because of the thirst he just felt. Jakatarub stepped towards the lake. The lake, which is located in the middle of the Wanawasa forest, is known to the public as Lake Toyawenning. When he almost reached the lake, Jakatarub stopped his steps. His ears caught the voices of girls who were joking. Maybe this is just my imagination, he thought in surprise. How could there be girls playing in the middle of a wilderness like this? By settling, Jakatarub stepped again towards Lake Toyawenning. The girls' laughter became louder and louder. Jakatarub peeked from behind a big tree towards the lake. How surprised was Jakatarub to witness 7 beautiful girls bathing in Lake Toyawenning. His heart was beating faster and faster. Jakatarub noticed one girl on the lake. All of them are very beautiful. From their conversation, Jakatarub knew that the 7 girls were angels who descended from heaven. Is this the meaning of my dream that time? He thought happily. Jakatarub's eyes saw a pile of angel clothes on a large rock on the edge of the lake. All the clothes have different colors. If I take one of these angelic clothes, of course the owner will not be able to return to heaven, muttered Jakatarub. His face was decorated with a smile when he imagined the angel whose clothes he stole would be willing to be his wife. Jakatarub carefully walked over to the pile of clothes. He walks very slowly. If the angels were aware of his presence, of course all his plans would be shattered. Jakatarub chose a red shirt. After succeeding, Jakatarub hurriedly slipped behind the bushes. Suddenly one of the angels said, "Let's go home now. It's already evening." Yes, right. We better go home now before the sun sets. The angels came out of the lake and put on their own clothes. Where are my clothes? Shouted one of the angels. Who took my clothes? She asked in a trembling voice, holding back tears. Where did you put your clothes, Nwangwalin? Asked an angel to her. Here. Same with your clothes. Nwangwalin answered while crying. She looked very panicked. Without her clothes, how could she possibly return to Kyangan? What's more, the shawl she used to fly was also missing. Because Nwangwalin could not find her clothes, she immediately entered Lake Toyawenning. Her other friends helped find Nawangwalan's clothes. Their efforts were in vain because Nawangwalan's clothes had been brought back by Jakatarub to his house. Finally, an angel said, "Nawangwalan, forgive us. We have to go back to heaven and leave you here. It's already afternoon. Nawangwalan cannot do anything." She could only nod and wave to her 6 friends, who flew slowly away from Lake Toyawening. Maybe it's my destiny to be an inhabitant of the earth, thought Nawangwalan while shedding tears. Nawangwalan looked desperate. Suddenly, without realizing it, she said, "Whoever can give me clothes, I will make a sister if she is a woman. But if he is a man, I will make my husband." Jakatarub, who had been watching Nawangwalan's movements from behind a tree, smiled happily. "Finally, my dream has come true," he thought. Jakatarub came out of hiding and walked towards the lake. He brought the clothes of his late mother that he took when he came home earlier. Jakatarub immediately put the clothes he was carrying on a large rock and said, "I'm Jakatarub. I brought the clothes you need. Take it and use it immediately. It's almost evening." Jakatarub left Nawangwalan and waited behind the big tree where he was hiding. Not long after, Nawangwalan came to see him. "I'm Nawangwalan. I am an angel from heaven, who can't go back there because my clothes are gone," said Nawangwalan, introducing herself. She fulfills the words she said earlier. Without hesitation, Nawangwalan was willing to accept Jakatarub as her husband. Day after day, month after month, Jakatarub and Nawangwalan's household has been blessed with a daughter named Nawangse. None of the villagers suspected who Nawangwalan really was. Jakatarub recognized his wife as a girl who came from a village far from his village. Since marrying Nawangwalan, Jakatarub has been very happy. But there was one thing that had been bothering him all along. Jakatarub was surprised why the rice in their barn didn't seem to decrease even though it was cooked every day. Over time, the pile of rice was getting higher. The harvests that were obtained regularly made their barns barely fit anymore. One morning, Nawangwalan was about to wash into the rive. She entrusted Nawangse to Jakatarub. Nawangwalan also reminded her husband not to open the lid of the rice steamer she was cooking. While playing with Nawangse, who was 1 year old at the time, Jakatarub remembered the rice his wife was cooking. Because it felt like a long time ago, Jakatarub wanted to see if the rice was cooked. Unknowingly, Jakatarub opened the rice steamer. He forgot about Nawangwalan's message. How surprised was Jakatarub to see the contents of the steamer. Nawangwalan only cooked a sprig of rice. He immediately remembered their rice supply, which was getting more and more. The question has been answered so far. Nawangwalan, who had apparently arrived home, stared angrily at her husband at the kitchen door. "Why did you violate my message, Maz?" she asked angrily. Jakatarub could not answer. He was silent. "Gone is my power to turn a sprig of rice into a basket of rice," continued Nawangwalan. "From now on I have to pound rice for us to cook. That's why Maz has to provide a mortar for me." Jakatarub regretted his actions. "But what can I say? It's too late." From that day on, Nawangwalan always pounded rice to be cooked. You can see that their rice supplies are getting less and less. Even now the rice is left at the bottom of the barn. As usual that morning, Nawangwalan went to the barn in the backyard to collect rice. When she was pulling the few remaining rice stalks, Nawangwalan felt her hand holding something soft. Out of curiosity, Nawangwalan kept pulling the object. Nawangwalan's face immediately went white as she stared at the object she had just grabbed. Red dress and shawl. Various feelings raged in her heart. Nawangwalan feels that she has been deceived by Jakatarub, who is now her husband. She didn't think at all that the person who had the heart to steal her clothes was Jakatarub. Immediately the desire that never left her heart became so strong. Nawangwalan wanted to go back to where she came from, heaven. In the afternoon, when Jakatarub returned to his house, he did not find Nawangwalan and their child Nawangse. Jakatarub searched while shouting for Nawangwalan, who he was looking for didn't answer. By that time the sun had started to set. Suddenly Jakatarub, who was standing in the yard, saw something flying towards him. He watched her for a moment. Jakatarub was stunned. Moments later he recognized that what he saw was Nawangwalan holding Nawangse. Nawangwalan looks very beautiful in an angel dress, complete with her shawl. Jakatarub felt himself shaking. He had no idea that Nawangwalan had managed to find her angel clothes again. This means the secret has been uncovered. Why do you have the heart to do this, Jakatarub? Asked Nawangwalan in a sad tone. "I'm sorry, Nawangwalan," were the only words Jakatarub could say. He looked really sorry. Nawangwalan could feel how helpless Jakatarub was in front of her. "Now you have to bear the consequences of your actions, Jakatarub," said Nawangwalan. "I will return to heaven because I am actually an angel. My place is not here." Jakatarub did not answer. He resigned to Nawangwalan's decision. "You have to take care of Nawangse yourself. From now on we are no longer husband and wife," said Nawangwalan firmly. She handed Nawangse into Jakatarub's arms. The little girl was still fast asleep. She did not realize that soon her mother would leave her. "No matter how wrong you are, Jakatarub, Nawangse is still my child. If she wants to meet me someday, burn the rice stalks, then I will go down to meet her," said Nawangwalan, looking at Nawangse's face. Only one condition: you are not allowed to be with Nwangsi when I meet her. Let her be alone near the rice stalks that are being burned. Continued Nwangwalan. Jakatarub held his sadness very hard. He wants to look tough. After Jakatarub declared his willingness not to meet Nwangwalan again, the angel flew away from him and Nwangsi. Jakatarub could only stare at Nwangwalan's departure while hugging Nwangsi. It's really an unforgivable mistake. There is nothing else he can do at this time besides taking good care of Nwangsi as Nwangwalan ordered.